see how loud I have to speak. Sorry, which one is it? Is it this one? Hi everyone, welcome to Beginners Python Meetup 106. This evening I've got myself and Tim helping me out, so if you have any questions, please put it in the YouTube chat box and Tim will help me answer some of the questions. Also, we have a Slack channel, so that's Beginners Python. You can join our Slack channel by sending an email to skypyproject@gmail.com and we'll be able to add you to our Beginners Python Slack community. To begin with, this lesson, Beginners Python is held every Tuesday, and the first Tuesday of the month we try to go back to beginners and the basics of Python so that we can introduce absolute new beginners to the topic. So this lesson is for those that have absolutely no background or just want to refresh their memory. Can everybody still hear me? Can I get a thumbs up from somebody? And there's no thumbs up anymore. Is Peter on? I'm just gonna keep talking, and if you can't hear me, just give us a holler. I can hear you. Great. Perfect. Okay. So for those that don't know where to begin, the best place to begin is by downloading Python. So it's quite simple, python.org, and download. The latest version we have is Python 3.9.5. And then I won't be downloading this, but that's basically, if you haven't got Python on your computer yet, then you just hit the installation and it's quite easy from there. The next thing that I want to introduce to you after you've installed Python is that you need an IDE to run the Python script. So we in the past have done it on Google Colab, so you don't need to install Python. It's already in the browser, but for this one we're going to be working on Pycharm. So an introduction to the Pycharm interface. There are a number of different IDEs depending on what you want to do. I myself use Spider because that was the first IDE that I was introduced to, and it is targeted towards scientists, but there are a number of other great ones targeted at different user groups, and so Pycharm is very education user friendly. So with Pycharm, what you'll see here is this is where you edit your text, and this is the console where you execute and the results come out here. So what is Python? Python is a high-level object-oriented programming language. High-level just means that it's closer to source code, so it's closer to human language rather than machine language. This just allows us to understand it better than zeros and ones. That's basically what high level object oriented means. That every time you create something in Python, it starts out as an object, so an instance in a class. More on that in a little moment's time, but basically Python is used in everything. We can see it in the background every time you use Google search engine, every time you're on Instagram, or if you're using Spotify or Netflix. All the algorithms in the background are written in Python. But it doesn't have to be just software. It can also be hardware in robotics, in medical machinery, and it's everywhere. So if you're interested in getting to know Python, learning all the different ways how Python is used, just have a look around you and you'll see it everywhere. Today will just have a look at all the different data types as an introduction. So one of the first things we'll do is we'll walk through all the different types of data types that you'll be dealing with when you're first introduced to Python. So firstly, we have strings. strings can be written with single or double quotes. So what you'll see here, if I have, this is a variable, and I've got S1 is equal to single quote, my first string uses single quotes. And I'll just run this by using the print function. So the print function is built into Python when you download it. So I'll just run print S1. And you can see down in the console, it's printed my first string uses single quotes. And again, there's no preference. It's up to you whether you use single or double quotes. So I've done S2 is equal to double quotes. My second string uses double quotes. So let's try and print S2. And again, you can see down in our console we have here, my first string uses single quotes, and we see S2 here, which is my second string, uses double quotes.
Tell people what keystroke you're running things with.
Sorry. So in Pycharm, in order to run print S1 and S2, you can hit the play button here, or you can use Control-Shift F10. Okay. So strings can go over several lines, but they have to start with a single quote, with triple single quotes or triple double quotes. You can span the multi-line strings across new lines with tabs and so forth, as you can see here. So I've got, how many? I've got too many there. But you can see here, it's turned green and it won't run when I execute the script. So you can see here I've got additional tabs. It's not a problem, it can deal with that. But actually with the double quotes, this is turning it into a doc string. So a doc string is just a documentation string that it can be accessed at runtime. So doc strings are basically a description of what the module or the class or the function does. We will not be touching on classes or modules today. We'll just stick to data types and basic functions. But it's recommended to stick to single, what are these, hashes?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's recommended to stick to single hashes, and I'll show you why in a second. If you place, sorry about that. So the reason why you should use single quotations rather than the triple quotes is because what you'll see is when I have it in a dictionary, for now, let's say I don't know what I want in my dictionary. I would just want an empty dictionary. Then I've just put in single comments, and let's see what happens when I print my dictionary. So the really great thing about Python is that if you start typing, it'll start suggesting what you want. And and you can press tab and it'll auto-complete for you. A lot of the IDEs will have that function for you. As you can see here, you can click on it or you can just press tab. So we just run that again. What we see is in my dictionary, in the first line in my dictionary, I've made it empty by using the comments. For my second dictionary, if I used double quotations, this achieves the same thing, but instead it creates a set containing the string. So let's print my dictionary 2 and we'll see what happens here. So as you can see in my dictionary 1, what we see is when we don't know what we want in our dictionary and we create an empty set, it is the result here. Whereas in my dictionary 2, where I've created comments because I don't know what I want in my empty dictionary, what we see is the doc strings act differently, and I've actually created something. It's not actually an empty set at all. So it's best at print function. The print function is very basic and it allows you to see the results. It displays the result for you in the console. You can use the print directly in the console without putting it into your script as well. So you can concatenate strings together by using the plus symbol. Note that I have had to add the blank space manually here. So we'll just run this print function just so you can see what print does. And we see here we have print hello inside the brackets. And we have hello times 3, which it has done down the bottom in the console here.
Peter said YouTube just dropped out. It's never dropped out for me before, but looks like it's still working.
Can everybody still hear me? I'll have to set up another stream. Okay.
So I'll do that on this computer.
Vince says he can hear me.
Oh, Vince says he can hear you.
Just checking, is it still streaming?
Oh, it says back on now.
Okay.
I'm going to disconnect off the network of this computer.
I think we're back online, so I'm just going to continue now with variables. What we've seen so far in the example of S1 for my first string and S2 for my second string, we see the structure is variable is equal to a string. We don't necessarily have to do that. We can do it as variable is equal to a different data type. So in this first instance, I've said that X is equal to I am a string with 11 words. How long are you? And I've used single quotes here, but that's just one data type. So what I can do here is I can check what data type x1, the variable x1 is. To check the data type, you can type in print type and the variable. So this tells me that type X is the class string. You can do a lot of things with strings, such as work out its length by using the function length bracket. You can also make it all uppercase by using .upper or .lower, which returns a new string with all the cases in lower or uppercase. You can get the string equivalent in integers and floats by using the function string, integer, or float. So for instance, if I create, let me see. If I create an integer, sorry, we'll introduce integers and floats in a second. I'll just finish off with strings. Basically, you can usually name variables anything that you want, except for a number of key words because they're already assigned something else. This is just a list of some of the things that you should not name your variables. So obviously false, because it is assigned a value in Python, and a number of other words that you should avoid. Moving on with numbers. So numbers is a different data type. If I created a, say a is equal to -5. So again, we see here a is a variable and it's equal to something. It's equal to a data type here. So we've seen before up here, x is equal to a string using the single quotes. So we've worked out the type is of the class string. Now we're making a new variable, is equal to -5, let's say. So let's print out what a is equal to as a data type. What we see is a equals -5. Here it's of the class integer. So an integer can be positive or negative as long as it's a whole number and it includes 0. A different type of number are floats. So for example, pi, this is another variable, pi is equal to 3.147. Let's have a look at pi. So now we see pi is equal to the class float. And it's followed by a decimal. You can do a lot of mathematical operations on integers and floats. For instance, you can do plus, minus, multiply, divide. I forget what the double, that gives you just the remainder. Sorry?
No, percent gives you just the remainder. That gives you integer division. It's floor division.
Full division?
Floor division.
Floor division.
Yeah, so it rounds down to the floor.
And that's exponential?
No, that's a bitwise operator. So it's asterisk, asterisk.
Ah, that's right. Sorry. Asterisk, asterisk is exponential. Okay. a really easy to move around in library is math. So a really easy way to learn Python is just to start playing with the math operators. So you can import a library such as math by going import math. So we've just downloaded a library from Python with a lot of math functions. Say we didn't know what was in math, we could ask for help. So this has given us all the functions inside of the math library. So we can see here all the functions and what it does. And then you can play around here to get a handle of, there's the floor division there. Moving on to lists now. Have we got any questions so far? Which one is that one? Nope. We're good? Okay. So far we've learnt strings and we've learnt integers and floats. The next data type are lists. A list can contain any class type. For example, another list, a tuple, strings, or numbers. We'll look at tuple in a second, but first a list. So in this list, this is animals is a variable. I've said that animal is equal to square brackets. That's how you define a list, by using square brackets. So animal equals square brackets, and I've got here a string, an integer, another string. I've got here a float. So you can see that inside a list, you can have a number of different types. By using the function length, I can get the number of items inside of my list. And by using the square brackets and then a value, I can work out the item inside of each list. So for example, if I wanted to refer to cat, then that would be the second position. So indexing starts at 0. So in this case, in animals, dog is 0, 3 is 1, and cat is 2. So we'll just run that to demonstrate. So in the print length of animals, I've got 6 items in my list, and animals, the second element at index 2 is cat. Moving on to tuples. So as we can see in the previous, list is defined by square brackets. And with tuples, you don't actually need brackets at all. But if you want brackets for consistency, you can use the round brackets. The key difference between tuples and lists is that a tuple is immutable. That means that it cannot be changed after you've created it. This is beneficial because it retains its value regardless of the functions that you apply on it. And therefore, it would have fewer functions that would work on it. For example, if you use pop or drop or insert that would work on a list, because you can change items in a list, but you can't change the items in a tuple. Yep, so with lists, you use the square brackets, and with dictionaries, you use the curly brackets. So we'll now move on to what a dictionary is. Dictionaries take on the structure of a variable, open bracket, curly braces, key, semicolon, value, comma, colon, value, comma, and then another key, colon, value, comma, and so forth and so forth. So in this example, I've got cities is equal to curly brackets, open curly brackets. My key is Australia, colon. Canberra is my capital, and then comma. Next key, next value. Key, value. We can update the existing entry by saying cities, open square bracket, say I wanted to update Australia from Australia's value, which is Canberra, to Brisbane, then I can write cities, square bracket, is equal to Brisbane. So let's run cities first to see that it's Australia's value is Canberra. So I'll just comment that out. Oh, I forgot to print.
Square brackets and quotes.
Here.
And right at the end, you want to close the parentheses.
So we've just printed what the associated value with Australia's key is in the dictionary cities. Now say that we wanted to update it, and we wanted to print that. Let's do it one step at a time. We'll update cities with Australia's key being Brisbane. So I've just run that, and now we want to print it again. So now that I've reprinted cities, and the value for Australia's key is now Brisbane. We can add to dictionaries at any point in time by creating a new entry. And now let's say I wanted to print. And we see that because we've assigned the value none, it's printed none. So the key differences between a list and a dictionary is that a list keeps its order, whereas a dictionary and a set doesn't keep its order. So we can see that we can refer to Spain or we can refer to Germany in cities without keeping that order. A list and a dictionary may have duplicates, whereas with a set, it's an unordered collection, but it has uniques only. It doesn't have any duplicates in a set, and it's not immutable, so you can't change it. But the set itself is mutable. Are there any questions? I think you can declare variable types in version 3.6 with X. What does Leo mean? It's not really a question.
Yes, he's showing how to use typing in variable in Python, which is more an advanced feature.
Okay. Moving on to if statements. If statements use Boolean logic, so it analyzes a problem and then it breaks them down into the questions as long as it can be answered by true or false. The if statements will only execute if the condition output is true. Don't forget to use the colon in the statement and indent the code.
There was a question on cities, if you.
Where is the question?
In Slack.
On this one?
Slack.
On Slack. How to print all cities. So I've got the question, how do you print all cities? Here. Will that work?
Get rid of the square brackets.
To print everything in the dictionary cities, we just use print cities.
You can also do cities.values if you just want the actual cities.
Sorry?
Cities.values, parentheses. Yep. And you go.
We can also just use cities.values, the function cities.values, in order to just see the dictionary values for each key.
And there's also cities.keys if you just want to see the keys. And parentheses. You need parentheses on it. Yep.
And likewise, we can use print open bracket cities.keys. Don't forget the close brackets, as I've forgotten. So you can see here, this is just the dictionary values, and this is just the dictionary keys. Can we assign more than one value? So one value can only have one key?
The keys must be unique.
One key.
Keys must be unique. Yeah.
So Howard's just asked us, do the keys have to be unique? So each key has to be unique.
But the values can have duplicates or copies. Values don't have to be unique, but the keys do.
So the values don't have to be unique, but the keys have to be unique. So for example, you could have Australia and Brisbane, and you can have Germany with Brisbane as well, but you can't have Australia twice. Oops. keep forgetting. Okay, Miller hasn't asked a question. Are there any more questions on dictionaries? Leo's just typing. Yes, so if you wanted the values, if you wanted the cities to have multiple countries, then you would do it the other way around. Essentially, your key has to be unique.
You could also do the value could also be a list of cities for the one key.
The alternative is that the values can be a list.
Yeah, so you could have Australia, colon, and then a list of all the cities in Australia.
So if I put here, can I put another comma bracket?
You'd have to start with a square bracket before Canberra. And then comma, and then just put a bunch of cities there. That's quotes around Gold Coast.
In this instance, we've created the key Australia, which has a value of a list. And in the list, we have a number of cities. So this is an element in a list, and the list itself is the value of this key. Oh, we got a thumbs up from Leo.
Yep.
Okay, if statements. Please continue to ask any questions. So if statements can only be executes by asking the question whether it's true or false, and it will execute it if the condition is true. The structure of an if statement is if variable is a Boolean expression, so it can be greater than or less than or greater than and equal to. So we've got greater than, less than. Is it equal to greater than or greater than equal to?
Greater than equal to. I normally do less than or equal to. I don't know if equal less than works.
So with if statements, we have this form of if variable conditional operator followed by the colon and then a command. In this case, I've said that, let's say the score is of an exam is 87. So if the score is greater than 90, don't forget the colon, then print, well done, A+ for you. You can have as many elif as you like, and then you can end it with an else. You can only have one else. So that has to go at the very end. So in this example, I have if the score is greater than 90, then print well done. Elif the score, so if the score is greater than 50, then print you pass the exam. And I have another elif, but I only have one else. So let's execute this and see how this if statement works. So we know that because the score is 87, it's printed you pass the exam. What is actually happening in this if statement is that it's gone to if the score is greater than 90, it isn't, so it's gone to the next elif statement. So here it's gone to the second one, so it'll keep iterating through until it's true. I'm just flying through this now, but you can always get help at any point in time by typing in help. And whatever function that you need help with. Will it help with if statements? It's a bit harder,
try.
Isn't it?
It's a keyword, but I'm not sure. You could try help if.
No, it won't help you.
No.
So in this case, it won't help you.
Oh, you can try putting if in quotes. Because it's a keyword, you can't put it there, but if you put if in quotes.
So I've just used the function print to get more help on print, but let's try again with if statements. So to get more help on if statements, you can type help, open bracket, if, in quotations.
So you have to do that for all the keywords, which is that list you gave before, the 33 words.
So when you're asking for help with functions, you only need the brackets, but for keywords, you have to use them in quotation. So the keywords we had listed previously, for example, def for define a function, we've got lambda. These are all the keywords that have to be used in quotation. Moving away from if statements, we now have for loops. The structure of a for loop is for an item in a list, colon, tab, execute this statement. So you can see here for p, this is any variable. You can put anything in this position here. So in this instance, I've used for p in planets, colon, tab, print p. If p is equal to Venus, colon, break. Notice that I've used tab here, and then in my if statement, in my for loop, I've used an additional tab. So with for loops, it iterates through each item in the, each element? Element? Yes. Sorry, each element in it, in the list or the string or the dictionary. So in this instance, I've used the variable planet, and I've made it a list of strings. So I've got here Earth, Jupiter, Mercury, they're all strings. This for loop is looping through each element in my list until it reaches the value Venus, in which I've instructed it to break at Venus. So what it will do, it will go through the first element, and then it will print it, and then it will print the second element, and then it will print the third element, and continue on until it reaches Venus, at which point it will break. So let's have a look at it. So the console's done it very quickly, but that's exactly what just happened. So first it's gone. I can actually change this P to anything here. It's just a placeholder for the function itself. So we see here it's gone through Earth, Jupiter, Mercury. So it's iterated through each element in my list. You can do a lot of fantastic things with loops. You can use a loop inside of another loop, so that's called a nested loop. I actually don't like the pyramid, so I'm just going to skip that. A different type of loop to a for loop is a while loop. So a while loop will execute a piece of code while the condition is true. Again, it has a very similar structure with the colon and the tab. So in this instance, I've said that count to 10. While the count is greater than 0, then print the count. And if the count, when I'm subtracting, equal to 1, as long as it's true, it will continue to execute. Once it becomes false, it will print lift off as I've commanded here. So again, the console has done that very quickly, but what we can see here is that I've started my count at 10, and while this condition is true, it will print out my count and subtract 1. So here, this is my count initially, and then because it's still greater than 0, it subtracts 1. Still greater than 0, it keeps subtracting 1. So it'll keep executing the while loop while the condition is true, up until it's reached not greater than 0, so it's printed liftoff. So the print liftoff command is not part of the while loop because it's not indented. You can use a while loop with an else statement. So in this instance, I've said that if my count is equal to 0, while the count is less than 5, don't forget the colon and the tab to indent it. I've said that print the count is less than 5. Else, don't forget the colon, print the count is not less than 5. Let's see what happens here. So what we can see is that the while is executing while the count is less than 5 up until the else statement here, so that once the count reaches 5, it executes the else statement. So it's printed 5 is not less than 5, as we can see here. You can use break, as I've done up here. Where have I used it? Break, when I've reached Venus. You can use continue and pass as well in for and while statements. So we can use continue in the continue statement and continue with the next in using the continue statement rather than a break statement. What have I written here?
Yeah, so a break breaks you out of the loop. Continue stays in the loop but doesn't do the rest of the code in that iteration of the loop.
Right.
They can't hear me.
Sorry, I've just got Tim whispering in my ear. So as Tim was saying, when you use the break, it will break. Sorry, Tim will probably be better suited at.
So the break statement breaks you right out of the loop. The continue statement says, finish this iteration. Don't do the rest of the commands in the iteration, but continue on with the other iterations of the loop. So break stops the iterations, continue keeps going on the iterations, but both of them jump you out of the current iteration of the loop.
Thanks, Tim. We're just approaching the hour now, so the last one will be another example of a while loop. So in this while loop, I have an if statement. We can see here I've said if the number is equal to 0, while the number is in range 10, then for my number is equal to number plus 1. So I'm just adding 1 to number each time. If the number is equal to 5, then continue. Notice again, this print is outside of the while statement. So see, we've got number equals 0. While number is less than 10, so in the range of 10, then keep adding 1 to number. So that's exactly what it's done. Number is 1, and then it's looping in itself. So now since it's still less than 10, it adds 1. So we've got number is equal to 2. And then it loops again because it's still within the range of 10, so it adds another 1. Right up until it equals to 5, and we've gone here, as Tim said, it breaks it and then continues on with the next. So we see here that 5, it continues on but doesn't execute it. Once we're outside of the while loop, I've said print the loop is complete. Congratulations on your first beginner session.
So well done, Annie. That was excellent. If you've got any more questions, feel free to ask them on the Learning to Code channel on our Slack. And even after the session is finished, someone will probably answer them, even if it's someone else from the group. I've just got a question for Annie. She installed Anaconda on her computer, and I've given her a computer that was installing Python from python.org. So I'm just asking, when would beginners decide to install Anaconda, and when would they decide to install Python from python.org?
So with Anaconda, it comes with a lot of pre-installed packages. For instance, Pandas, I'm not using it lately, but it comes with a number of packages, so it is much more convenient to use something. In my experience, it has been easier to use Anaconda because it comes with pre-installed packages collectively as a group.
So for beginners, would you recommend that they use Anaconda or Python.org?
For beginners, I would recommend using python.org and then installing a simple IDE such as Pycharm, which is much more user-friendly. So I've just brought up the page again. The best option is to install and download it from python.org and going to downloads and then choosing your operating system. And that will give you the latest 3-point Python.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much, Annie. Hope we'll have some more broadcasts from you in the future. And so next week I'll be taking the session, and the following 2 weeks after that will be Arun, and he'll be doing more machine learning stuff. So hope to see you next week at 5:30 on Tuesday.